Okay, what's the next question? Are we?
Number 2, they can hear difficult things about themselves. They can listen to how people close to them experience them, even when it's uncomfortable, because they don't defend or deflect. They are more likely to heal. Do you feel like you do that?
Definitely depends on the day.
Yeah.
I do that really good in
With your
some
30%
areas.
ass today?
My 30% ass, and other times, like, I have to come back and try again later. Sometimes, like, the defensive comes up and I have to try again later. But I do try again later. How about you?
I think I do it way more today than I ever have before.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a lot of times, especially in the beginning of our relationship and even before our relationship, right? Anytime somebody was going to call me out on something or speak to something that I was doing wrong in any way, always defensive, always, pushing that person out of my life or getting rid of that relationship, or, whether it was friends or coworkers or jobs or bosses or partners, whatever the case may be, I was not good at taking criticism or feedback of any type. But I also didn't grow up in a world, I didn't grow up in a family, and I also didn't have a lot of experiences where I got like constructive, positive, healthy feedback / criticism, right? It was a lot of like, you're an idiot, don't do that. Like all the negative ways that we kind of like point out each other's faults. And so, but in our relationship specifically, I have been able to learn how to listen to what you're not talking about, but listen to what you're telling me about my behavior and what I'm doing and how it's affecting you. And then rather than immediately get defensive and start to turn it around on you and point it back at you and be like, yeah, but I'm able to kind of take that information, even though it's hard. Like there's some times where it's really hard to kind of just sit in it. And I can feel all of those things coming up that want to just point out all of your faults and want to start getting angry with you and want to start defend and leave the situation. And I've been able to cultivate the ability to kind of sit in that space for longer periods of time, even if it's like oftentimes, especially when they're harder ones, I will do everything that I can. And I think this is like nervous system regulation, right? Because I'm able to kind of do everything that I can to keep my ears open, keep listening to the information that you're giving me. And it almost feels like I'm holding back the wave of all of those defensive mechanisms, all those parts of me that want to come in and start protecting. I'm like, hold on, guys, hold on. I'm holding back the wave of all of that stuff to get the information. And then once you give me that information, and sometimes, and you can attest to this, right? Sometimes we're having those type of conversations and then I'm just like, are you finished? Like, is there anything else that you want to say? And you're like, no, thank you. I'm finished. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, and I have to leave.
Yeah.
Like I have to separate for a minute and get some space because the tidal wave of fucking coping, like all of that anger and tension and frustration inside of me, which is really not directed towards you, of course, but it's all of that stuff that's wanting to come out is just like, let me at her. Let me come out. I gotta protect you. She's full of shit. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Does she not even see what she's doing? All of those parts inside of me are scrambling.
Right.
And it's like everything that I can do to hold them back and be like, is there anything else, Stephanie? Tell me. Is there anything else? I can't hold it back much longer. And you're like, no, I'm fine. I'm done. I'm like, okay, I got to go outside. And then it's just like, and sometimes it's anger. Sometimes I yell. Sometimes I leave the house, drive away, and I'm screaming in the van, screaming in the car, getting all of that stuff out. And because I was able to hold on in the moment and hear the information, and then I ride all of that frustration and anger and all the emotion, I'm able to ride all of that out. And then I'm like, damn it. She's right. I have to change. I have to fix this. This is a problem. 9 times out of 10, especially at this phase of our life, I feel like there's a couple of different things every now and then that we'll point out at each other that has more to do with us than the other person. But the majority of the time, I think we're pretty spot on where it's like, hey, this is something that needs to be fixed. Yeah. This is an issue in our relationship, right? And if you don't do it or if you don't want to do it, I get that. But, we're not giving each other ultimatums by any means. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. There's also like I relate with everything you just said. I've definitely had
It's so hard,
my
right?
drives. I've definitely, yeah, there's this one that I use that is, this is not about you. He's telling you how he feels. This is not about you. He's telling you how he feels.
That's a good one.
This is not about you. He's telling you how he feels. So sometimes I have to like say that over and over and over. And by like, it's not about me, doesn't mean that I might not have responsibility or accountability that I need to do at that point. When it's not about me is I don't need to, like, I don't get to take how you're feeling and remove your feelings and then make it about me, is what I mean by that. So it's not about me. He's telling you how he feels. That means I'm not going to take it personal. I'm not going to be like, now we need to caretake my feelings. It's not about me. He's telling you how he feels. And there are times when I haven't brought things to you and I'm trying to handle them on my own, that when you try to bring me something, I'm already like, I'm like, yeah. And I like, you're not getting through. Like there's a wall that you are not getting through. And it takes a while because I'm like, yeah, that just kind of plays into all this shit that I'm trying to work through and handle with you right now. So there's so many times that I can't even hear you. And I think one of the things that we've also been practicing is I'll tell you, I can see that. I don't know what to do about it right now. And I've said to you, I don't even know if I want to try to do something about that right now, because at least that I'm telling you, I see it. I don't know if I can, or I don't know how to, and I don't know if I want to, because I've got all these things, right, that I've been going through in my head. But it also doesn't say you're wrong. This is what's wrong with you. It's not flipping it back. It's taking accountability and telling you, boy, I don't know that I have the tools. And yeah, that's not something I'm even prepared to look at right now, which is shitty. But it also, I feel, and I might be wrong, I probably am, and later on down the road, I'll do it different. For me, that feels like a healthier thing to say, I see you, I'm validating your feelings, and this is how I'm showing up with hearing how you felt.
When you started doing that,
yeah.
When you started doing, and I don't remember when, right?
Yeah.
Last Tuesday when you started doing that, but when you started kind of communicating that way, it made a huge difference because it gave me it's the validation part, which is super, super important, right? And then also because I know how difficult it is to not just hear things, but then to also alter and change behavior, I'm like, okay, at least it's on her radar. And if it's on her radar, and sometimes we throw stuff up on each other's radar that we have to kind of like every couple of months, hey, I'm throwing this one back up there into the mix because it's still flaring up sometimes. But that alone, I think, is a huge shift. Again, rather than deflecting and, turning it back around or ignoring it or just getting angry and walking away. So I think that's huge. That's been really, really beneficial. That to me it takes the sting out of everything. It just goes, oh, okay. She's willing to listen. She's willing to hear it. She's totally acknowledging that she doesn't know what to do about it. I don't know what to do about it. I can't say, well, this is what you should do. It's a big deal to just validate the experience. And then even that alone, I think, like I said, it takes some of the sting out of it. And then you typically work on those things. Like it usually goes into the mix of what you're processing and what you're working on and what you're going to eventually shift and change.
Yeah, I've had that come up a few times when I've told you I don't even know how to. I don't know if I have the space. I think it was the first time that was like, I don't know that I even want to.
Mm-hmm.
It, like you said, it goes on the radar, and I started seeing it more, and I started making changes with it. And I think the last time I told you I don't even know what to do about it or how to look at that, then I was able to follow up with, but every time I don't know how, when we talk about it and I start to see it, things start changing and I start seeing improvements. So even though I don't know how right now, I feel like it's going to come up.
We were meant to be. We were meant to be.